Hi, we've got a really fun video today. What we're going to look at is how to do etching and printmaking. Now this sounds really fancy, but you can just use some simple things from around your house to create your own prints. All you need is a polystyrene punnet. You find these at the bottom of or your vegetables and your meat is packaged in these. If you are using one from meat in particular, you need to give it a good wash before you get started. What I've done is cut the edges off my punnet so that it's nice and flat. So to use this as a stamp, you need to have a nice flat surface. If you've got any curves sticking up, it's not going to go flat on your page. Then we need pencils and pens. You can even use a pair of scissors or a ruler to carve your picture or etch your picture into the punnet. And then of course we'll need some paints and a piece of paper to do our print making. Now you'll notice it's really easy to carve into your polystyrene punnet. If you just use your pen, you can almost draw into it. But the only problem is you can't erase it. So once you've carved a line in there, it's stuck, it's in your print. So what we are going to do is first practice and draw out our print on a piece of paper, and then we're going to trace it onto our polystyrene print. Right, I've chosen to do a delicious monster, one of those great big leaves, because it's nice and easy and it looks really lovely on a print. So what I've done is once I cut the edges off my polystyrene punnet, I've put it on my piece of paper and I've drawn a nice line around the edge of it. And this is so that I keep my drawing inside here and I don't draw something that is too big for my punnet. Now to start off with a delicious monster, you can draw this in pencil so that you can erase any mistakes you make. I'm going to use a nice fat Koki or felt tip pen so that you can see really clearly what I'm drawing. Let's get started. So we're going to start drawing our delicious monster just with a nice big heart. It must come up quite a bit at the top, go all the way down to the bottom. Try and fill the space that you're using. So I don't want a tiny little heart in the corner. Use as much space as you can, draw a great big heart. The top of it here we're just going to make a little bit flat, and then we're going to curve the other side of our heart around. The good thing about this is you don't have to keep them too even on each side because the delicious monster isn't perfectly even. And then when we get to the bottom here, we're just going to make it curve to the side a little bit. So you're not going to bring it down at a straight point like a regular heart. Just make it curve a little bit. Next we're going to draw the veins of the leaf. So it starts really fat at the top and it gets thinner, tapers off until it's almost nothing at the bottom of the leaf. So I'm going to just make a mark where I want to finish over there. And from the top here, I'm going to draw my line down. Try not to make it too straight, so give it a little bit of a curve. And then I'm going to go on the other side. Bring the lines closer and closer together as they get to the bottom. Next we're going to add the veins of the leaf, and they're kind of in an S shape going down. So they start much higher than they end, and you curve it as if it's an S. So I'm going to start from the top here, draw a nice S going down, and the veins are in line with each other. So when you start one, go to the other and do one on the other side. Right, next, delicious monsters have these big holes in their leaves, and they are between each of the veins, and then there's a circular or oval hole closer to the center of the leaf. So at the edges, they kind of break off. Now we've got a lot of lines on our page. It can start to get a little bit confusing. So what I'm going to do is just color in the lines that I know I'm going to cut out at the end. So these parts of the leaf that we've just drawn now are actually not even going to be on our picture. They're going to be cut out. So I'm coloring them in dark so that I know that they're not part of the leaf. Right, so we can do some on the other side. You can see I'm almost drawing a U shape, or could say it looks like a vase as well. Gets a little bit fatter at the bottom. Try and make them each a little bit different, or a different size, different curve. If they're all the same, it doesn't look as natural or like a leaf. And as you get to the bottom of the leaf, make them a bit smaller, so they can be really big at the top and then smaller as you get down to the bottom. Now, almost in line with each of these, you're going to do a little hole in the leaf that you're going to color in as well. Try and make it so that they're in line. So don't go and draw one right up at the top there or down at the bottom. And they should be oval shaped. And again, get smaller as we get to the bottom. Right, so we've got our leaf planned out. Next, we're going to transfer it onto our punnet. Now, the thing with printmaking is you're going to make 2 or 3 different prints of this leaf and etch more and more out of it as you get to the bottom. And our first print, we're just going to draw an outline around the leaf, and we're just going to follow the outline of the leaf. So for our first etching, we're going to put our punnet underneath our leaf. Make sure it's all lined up. You might have to hold it up so that you can see well. And I'm just going to take my pencil and press over this outline that I've just drawn of the leaf. Okay, and you'll notice you can see the line that you've etched into the punnet. You might want to go over a little bit darker. Okay, and what we're going to do is cut this out, and this is going to be our first stamp. Right, so we've got the outline of our leaf ready, and we're going to make our first print with that. Now, I've just mixed together a little bit of blue and yellow paint to create a green. If you have a green already mixed, you can do that, or you could do it any color you want. Often prints are not realistic colors. Okay, so I've got my green paint all mixed up, and I'm going to paint over the punnet. You need to give it a generous layer of paint so that the print comes out nice and clearly. Right, so you can put your leaf down. If you're using a smaller punnet, you might want to do 2 or 3 of these stamps with just the leaf, so you could kind of make it like a pattern. I'm using quite a big punnet, it will take up most of my page, so I'm not going to do a pattern, but you could make a pattern with your stamp. Okay, push it down nice and hard. Then you need to lift it up really carefully. Right, so now we're going to put this aside to dry, and we are going to etch the rest of the pattern into our polystyrene punnet. I'm just going to give it a little bit of a wipe so that it's nice and clean and doesn't have wet paint on it. You could rinse it under water as well. Right, so if you pause the video to quickly wash off your punnet, we're back with our clean punnet, and we're going to layer it underneath our template again. Now you need to make sure that you line it up nicely with the outline of your leaf. And the next thing that we're going to do is go over all these details that we drew. So here's the outline of the leaf. I'm going to mark off each of these holes that are in the leaf. So you'll just go over all the details that you drew. Right, now that we've carved our outline onto our punnet, we can start etching it. So you can see a pencil works pretty well. A ruler will also do the trick. And what we want to do is carve out more of these details. So where each of the holes are in the leaf, we're just going to do some scraping. I'm going to switch to a pen now just because it will make it clearer. What I'm doing is in each of these holes, I'm almost scratching it out, and that's what etching is. It's scratching or carving details into something. So you can go with your pen now and carve the details into your leaf. Go over each of the veins of the leaf and around your outline again. Really digging your pen into it. The harder you press, the clearer your stamp will be at the end. So if you don't press hard enough, it will all just come out like our first stamp. You really need to carve into it. To do this, I'm just doing lots of small strokes with my pen. So when people do etching and printmaking, they usually use a piece of rubber and they'll use a knife. Right, now that you've carved or etched your picture into your polystyrene punnet, I'm going to take another color. Now it's important that the two colors that you use are quite different colors. So I've chosen black. It's a nice contrast to the green, but you could choose any color really. If you do decide to do a blue or a yellow, make sure that it's quite different to the green that's there already. So I'm just taking my black paints and again painting over my stencil. Some etching artists will do 2 or 3 layers like this, etching more and more out of the picture and then painting their template or their stamp and printing it again. So they create their pictures in layers. Remember, don't be too stingy with your paint. Get a nice thick layer on, but also make sure that you're not getting big clumps of paint in spots that are not supposed to show up on your stamp. Right, once you've painted over the whole stamp, you need to make sure that you line it up to your previous stamp and then push it down quite hard. Right, and now you can see the second layer of our stamp is on there and we can see some of the details of the leaf. Now this could be really fun if you have a nice piece of white fabric. You could print it out and make your own pattern fabric using your etching stamps. So play around and have some fun with etching on polystyrene punnets. If you had fun doing this video, why not subscribe to our channel, Get Started? We put up great ideas every week.